Super BS.
Hey, Jank here, otherwise known as Josh Pederson from the Super BS Gamescast. I'm coming at you with a little thing I like to call Super BS Futures. And this is where I'm going to tell you all of the good games coming out in February, so you know what you can spend your money on and, what we probably won't be spending our money on. So, I'm just going to go down the list here. So we all know that the first couple of months coming off of the holidays are slow for gaming. This isn't necessarily a bad thing because it gives us time to chip away at that back catalog or play whatever games we might have collected during the holidays. You know, whatever you got for Christmas or you're going to give to your nephew or something, but you didn't because you kept it. But for anybody looking for something new to play, it can be a very difficult time. Sometimes developers surprise us with open world games like Horizon Zero Dawn, and sometimes they disappoint us with games like Halo Wars 2. Then again, sometimes we don't get surprised or disappointed. We get nothing. Is February 2018 one of those months? I'm going to let you decide. Alright, so first on this list, coming out February 1st, we got Her Majesty's Spiffing. I might not have said that right. Anyways, Her Majesty's Spiffing is already available on the Xbox One, PlayStation 4, Steam, and mobile platforms, and it takes place shortly after the United Kingdom's withdrawal from the European Union. Unhappy with the political turmoil she's seeing, the Queen invokes the royal prerogative to get rid of Parliament and take control of the country in an attempt to make Britain great again. Doesn't that sound familiar? Seeing the difficulty in reconquering that lost portion of planet Earth, the Queen creates an organization called SPIFFING, which stands for Special Planetary Investigative Force for Inhabiting New Galaxies. She intends to establish a galactic British empire and launches colonists into space on a modified version of Big Ben. This point-and-click adventure was developed by Billy Goat Entertainment and received a mixture of reviews from Metacritic in the 60 to 75% range. The game is going to be released on Nintendo Switch on February 1st. Second on the list here, we have everybody's favorite fighting franchise, and no, I don't mean Streets of Rage, EA Sports UFC 3. What can be said about a UFC game that hasn't been said before? You either like it or you don't. This time around, EA has incorporated a career story mode, much like they did in last year's Madden entry. Looks like Conor McGregor dodged that old EA cover curse by being retired. On a side note, you can unlock Bruce Lee. Is this enough to get any of us at the Super BS Gamescast interested? No. EA Sports UFC 3 will be released on February 2nd for the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. Alright, so this next one on the list, it's got me a little bit curious. So this game is called Pass Cure. Once upon a time, any type of storytelling media, whether film, television, or video game that featured intense dream sequences and gunfights was automatically compared to The Matrix. I'm going to bring that comparison back and say that this game looks like a revamped version of The Matrix. There's very little known about the story at this point except that you're out to exact revenge on people who experimented on you. Using stealth, fists, guns, and psychic abilities, you fight, sneak, and build your way through this action game to discover why you're imprisoned and who put you there. This game is going to be released on the PlayStation 4 on February 2nd. Shadow of the Colossus. I would be lying if I said I wasn't excited about this one. Taking significantly less time with this PlayStation remake than The Last Guardian, Sony is hoping that players will want to recapture the nostalgia that made Shadow of the Colossus such a great game. For those of you who haven't experienced this game in its original form, Shadow of the Colossus focuses on a young man named Wanderer who ends up in a forbidden land and has to defeat 16 massive beings in order to save a girl named Mono. This game is going to be released on the PlayStation 4 on February 6th. Marooners. There isn't a lot to say about this game except that it's a 4-player puzzle game, much like the Fusion Frenzy games on the Xbox and Xbox 360, which were actually pretty amazing. Is it worth playing over some of the other great puzzle games out there? We'll let you decide. This game is going to be released on the Xbox One on February 6th. Little Triangle is a platforming game that lets you team up with friends to play through chaotic levels while fighting bosses and listening to countless NPCs. It's being compared to Cuphead, but as a game that made our top 5 games of 2017 list, that's a high standard to set. This game comes out on the Xbox One on February 7th. Disc Jam. It's been compared to Rocket League in several reviews and features many ways to play, including 1v1 and 2v2 matches. This mixture of air hockey and tennis was first released on the PlayStation 4 and PC last year, garnering a little over 70% from Metacritic. Now that it's making a jump onto the Nintendo Switch, will it bolster sales, or will Switch owners just hold out for the inevitable release of Rocket League? I guess time will tell. This game will hit the Nintendo Switch on February 8th. The 7 Deadly Sins, Knights of Britannia. Since there clearly aren't enough video games based on popular anime series, the Seven Deadly Sins Knights of Britannia boasts plenty of over-the-top action, busty women, and convoluted storylines. In this game, you assemble the Seven Deadly Sins to fight and save the Kingdom of Lioness. This game will be released on the PlayStation 4 on February 9th. Under Night In Birth Late Bracket ST. I won't even attempt to try to spell that again. If you're looking for an anime brawler that looks like the arcade games of yesteryear, this might be a game for you. A sequel to another game that's difficult to spell and pronounce. This game takes place in Japan after a phenomenon called the Hollow Night enveloped regions of the country. There's more to this one, but I don't quite understand it. Feel free to check out the Wikipedia page, which you can find the link to in the actual article on humanicamedia.com/blog. This game comes out on the PlayStation 4 on February 9th. Fae. This is one of those games that looks like it has something fresh and unique to offer. Fae is an action-adventure game where you control a fox-wolf creature in a forest that's being attacked by beings known as the Silent Ones. It's your job to run around and sing to the forest, bringing it back to life and defeating those who would stop you. The trailer from Gamescom features gameplay that looks to build off the animation style of Ori and the Blind Forest. And good news, you can play it on your Nintendo Switch. This game comes out on PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch, and Windows on February 9th. Bleed 2 is an action game platformer, sort of, that features side-scrolling action and retro music. A sequel to Bleed, the game puts you in control of a girl named Wern, who has striking resemblance to a Scott Pilgrim character. The first game came out to fairly positive reviews, and while I'll admit I have no intention of playing this game, it does look interesting. It comes out on Xbox One on February 9th. Dragon Quest Builders. If you're a fan of the Dragon Quest franchise and Minecraft, you're in for a treat. Our very own Dr. Don has been speaking high praise about this game. Check out episode 35 of the Super BS Gamescast for a full rundown on the game's story. It comes out on Nintendo Switch on February 9th. Kingdom Come Deliverance. There aren't a lot of medieval role-playing games out these days that have a slightly historical and non-magical storyline. Developed by Warhorse Studios, this game takes place in the Kingdom of Bohemia, where the old king has died and his heir lacks the power to take the throne. You play as a blacksmith whose family has been killed. You take up your sword and go after the king's brother, who kidnapped the king and pillaged his way across the land. This game comes out on the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One on February 13th. Crossing Souls. This is another top-down retro game that hits the PlayStation 4 on February 13th. Dynasty Warriors 9. Anybody familiar with video games in the past 20 years is familiar with this franchise. Not a lot of story when it comes to Dynasty Warrior games, but they are a lot of fun. For those of you who are unfamiliar with this franchise, the Dynasty Warrior games involve hacking and slashing your way through enemy hordes. Unlike its predecessors, Dynasty Warriors 9 offers an open-world environment and a fully traversable map of China. It's also rumored that each of the characters will have their own stories with separate endings. This game comes out on the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One on February 13th. Monster Energy Supercross, the official video game. We need more dirt bike games based on energy drink companies, said very few people ever. The sad thing is, Monster's been draining cash from the wallets of gamers long before they started making video games. I can personally remember many long nights drinking Monster and playing Halo. The game itself looks great, but chances are what you see in the trailer is all you're going to get. This game comes out on the Xbox One, PlayStation 4, and Nintendo Switch on February 13th. Owlboy. This is another game that some of us at the Super BS Gamescast had expressed some interest in playing. Owlboy is developed by D-Pad Studio and has been in development since 2007. It was first shown off at PAX 2013 and takes place in the Land of the Sky, where the islands below have been separated by a catastrophic event. He plays an owl-human hybrid named Otis who's trying to save his village from a band of pirates. This game comes out on the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and Nintendo Switch on February 13th. The Longest 5 Minutes. Finally, a game about somebody who has amnesia. I didn't think we'd ever get one of those. Nah, but in all seriousness, this game does remind me of the role-playing games of previous generation consoles. What we know about the story is that you're collecting memories, exploring dungeons, and fighting bosses. We're assuming that it's not actually 5 minutes long, but it comes out on the Nintendo Switch and PlayStation Vita on February 13th. Radiant Historia Perfect Chronology. Our very own Dr. Donna speaks very highly of this series that sees you playing as characters who can navigate timelines to stop wars between nations. Every choice you make affects the outcome of the game. It hits Nintendo 3DS on February 13th. The story goes on. Top-down gaming never looks so top-down gaming. The story goes on as a roguelike hack-and-slash game that takes you on an adventure through a mysterious maze known as the Odyssey. Comes out on Xbox One on February 14th. The Secret of Mana. You asked for it and Square delivered. Originally released in Japan as Seiken Densetsu 2, this remake of the 1993 role-playing adventure takes place in a fantasy world where mana is nearly exhausted due to endless wars between the factions of man. You play as three main characters seeking mana seeds to restore mana to the world. Genre fans beware, if you're expecting this to be like a Final Fantasy game, you're in for a rude awakening. It comes out on the PlayStation 4 and Nintendo Switch on February 15th. Bayonetta and Bayonetta 2. Nintendo sometimes listens to what their fans are saying. Nintendo Switch versions of Bayonetta and Bayonetta 2 were announced last year alongside the release of a trailer for Bayonetta 3. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the franchise, Bayonetta is about a witch who awakens after a 500-year sleep and tries to get her memories back while maintaining the balance between good and evil. If you're a fan of Devil May Cry, you'll probably enjoy this game. It comes out on the Nintendo Switch on February 16th. Metal Gear Survive. The beta for Metal Gear Survive is already playable and people aren't liking it as much as they hoped they would. On top of needing an internet connection to play the game, critics and bloggers are saying that the gameplay is glitchy and friendly AI aren't exactly easy to play alongside. Whether it's because the game encourages co-op play or if Kojima's absence has put the franchise into a downward spiral, only time will tell. Sometimes franchises put out bad games. It happens. Metal Gear Survive takes place shortly after the events of the last game. The soldiers left behind in the aftermath of the evacuation from the mother base are transported to an alternate world where they're besieged by creatures. It's your job to fight these creatures and gather resources in hopes of getting home. This game comes out on the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One on February 20th. The Station is a first-person mystery set on a space station sent into space to study a sentient alien civilization. Assuming the role of a recon specialist, players must unravel a mystery which will decide the fate of two civilizations. This game will be released on the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One on February 20th. Pac-Man Championship Edition 2. If you change the color schemes, add new music, and throw in some puzzle modes, will it make Pac-Man fun for a new generation? Probably not, but I'm sure there are plenty of nostalgia gamers who are anxious to get their hands on the latest addition to the never-ending Pac-Man saga. This game comes out on Nintendo Switch on February 22nd. Sword Art Online Fatal Bullet. Oh look, another anime-based video game. This game comes out on the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One on February 23rd. We already mentioned Past Cure on this list. It hits the Xbox One on February 23rd, so if you want to play it on the Xbox One, it'll hit later in the month. But if you want to play it on the PlayStation 4, it'll hit earlier in the month, so it's up to you. This is a game that I'm actually kind of excited to play, Immortal Redneck. This is a thing. Yeah, it's an actual thing. A redneck who wakes up in ancient Egypt and goes to war with the deadly forces of the underworld. Sadly, this actually looks fun to me. Assuming the voiceovers don't drive me crazy before I can finish it, I might pick up a copy. It comes out on the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One on February 27th. Gravel. Remember when Gran Turismo used to be fun? You could do things like drive rally cars on different tracks around the world? Neither do most people. So if you're a racing game enthusiast looking to do a little virtual off-roading, Gravel is the game for you. Start a career and play through disciplines of your choice while competing for the title of Best Rally Racer in the world, for whatever that's worth. This game hits the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One on February 27th. Shiny. Not to be confused with that annoying song from Moana, there seems to be a growing fondness of indie games with sad stories. We at the Super BS Gamescast are huge fans of Ori and the Blind Forest. In Shiny, you play as a robot named Kramer227 who has a short supply of energy, and for him, energy is life. The question here is, how are you going to spend it? This game comes out on the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One on February 27th. DeBlob 2. This is an old game getting a new chance at life on modern consoles. If you're a fan of Minions and Rabbids, this could be a game for you. It comes out on the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One on February 27th. RiftStar Raiders. This top-down flight game lets you customize your ship and your stats to create the ultimate space weapon. It comes out on the Xbox One on February 27th. Last on the list, we got Payday 2. While its original run on consoles wasn't exactly extraordinary, there were a lot of good vibes from people when Nintendo announced that Payday 2 is coming to Switch. Perhaps the franchise will see new life on a new platform. At this point, having more remakes on the Switch is only a good thing. It hits the Nintendo Switch on February 27th. Remember, we have trailers for all these games. If you go on humanicanmedia.com/blog, where our Super BS site is currently residing, you can check out all the videos and read the little synopsises we put up for them. And please, if you're a fan of this, please subscribe to the Super BS Gamescast. We drop new episodes every week, and you can find us on iTunes, Podbean, Google Play, Stitcher, and all those great podcasting websites. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you next time.
That's to us people that can feel things. It hurts.